Of course, the capital region isn't the only place on the island dealing with an influx of urban deer. In fact, it's becoming an issue throughout the province. So how are other regions dealing with it? Dana Hutchings joins us now live with more in tonight's Checkpoint.
Stacey, Cranbrook is the first town to get provincial approval to cull deer, but it's not the only place looking to that solution. Kimberley, Grand Forks and Invermere have also applied for deer cull permits. Now on the island, Parksville has just passed a bylaw that prohibits feeding deer. And as Dean Stoltz reports, the city isn't spending any money on further action. It's leaving the decision to the people.
No one's ever done an actual deer count in Parksville, but most people seem to agree there are a lot of them. Do you think there's a deer problem in Parksville?
I think there's probably too many deer around here. Yeah, there's a problem.
Whether they're found lying on front lawns or running down city streets, deer seem to like Parksville as much as people do. But the two don't always mix, and Alan Brown even thought twice about entering these woods with a deer in there.
That's right. No, I didn't want to go in there. I would have had there been a path here, but just to walk home. But no, the deer is, first the one came through, and then this dog come running up. And then the other deer came and then didn't want to go in, I guess, because of the dog.
It's one reason why this city councillor brought up the problem at a meeting last month and even broached the idea of a deer cull. But that idea has now been shelved, at least temporarily.
Well, the decision is that we're going to pass a bylaw. We're going to create a bylaw to stop feeding the deer in Parksville.
And while other local governments on the island are spending thousands of dollars to help determine their deer plan, Parksville will ultimately let residents decide what to do, which could include a cull down the road.
Next year or the year after, whenever we do our next citizen survey, we're going to include a piece on there around wildlife. And then that way we can get a better handle on the problem. Part of what you have to do is find out how many deer. We don't even have a number of deer in this area. So it's kind of hard to say, well, there's too many when we don't know the number.
And how do you find that out?
Well, you have to do the count. But first of all, we're going to do the survey to see if it's a problem.
What do you think about the bylaw that will make it illegal to feed deer?
I think that's a good idea. You don't need to be feeding the deer. They can feed themselves.
So at least one small step forward as one island community deals with its deer problem.
And our Checkpoint question tonight, what's your solution to the urban deer problem? You can tweet us at @check_news on Facebook, facebook.com/checknews, or email checkpoint@checknews.ca. And we also have a web poll question tonight. Should the CRD be spending $255,000 to study the deer issue? To vote, you can go to our website, www.checknews.ca. Stacey, there are 86,000 black-tailed deer on Vancouver Island. That's 3/4 of the entire provincial population. And it's a population that seems to be growing. Our Checkpoint question tonight, what is your solution to the urban deer problem? Here are some of your answers.
You don't want to kill them all, but I mean, what else are you going to do? Are you going to round them up? That's kind of hard, and put them out to the forest. They're all going to come back. So, I mean, you may have to cull them.
I think they have as much right to be here as we do.
There's too many in the city, but I don't know what the answer is.
If they could legally hunt the deer and use it for food, I think that would be better.
We're invading their habitat, and you know, we've got to do something. I just don't know. I wish I knew what the answer was. I don't want to kill them.
I don't know. There's too much that can be done. I know in New Brunswick they're looking at a moose fence for the moose problem there, and they're looking at the same thing in Newfoundland. They put up a moose fence to keep the moose off. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what to do about it. It's just something we got to live with.
And from Twitter, Dave says, instead of spending money on what to do, spend the money and catch and relocate the deer to other places in the province. From Facebook, Stephanie Scott says, cull the herd and feed the homeless. Deer is a healthy, organic alternative to beef at a reduced cost. Diana Elliott says, you chose to move to their natural habitat. You do not have the right to push them out or cull them. And our web poll question, should the CRD be spending $255,000 to study the deer issue? Well, you can see the answer there. Overwhelmingly no, 97.4% think the CRD should not be spending the money. Now, the money has already been allocated. CRD Chair Jeff Young says in the study they'll look at what other areas have done and are doing. They'll look at their options and the scope of the problem. As well, they'll consult with the public, but a cull is not necessarily the solution. And that's tonight's Checkpoint.